Welcome back to the second part of the video tutorials. Now we'll be learning how to collect data from the video and enter into Notepad++. Before you begin collecting data, I would recommend that you go to the Dropbox folder, Systems 490, and in the Documents folder there is a PowerPoint presentation with the name Making Volleyball Statistics Simple PowerPoint, and it goes through a very nice definitions. It gives very nice definitions as to what these statistics mean. For example, what is an attack, how is it defined, things like what is an assist, what is a set, all the things that you'll be needing for collecting data. Things like serve, is it considered a serve or not, all the rules for passing as well, defense and blocking. So all these are there, and I would recommend you reading through them at least to have a good understanding as to what they mean, because it will really help you out in determining what pass was it, or what pass was it, and how it needs to be labeled in the data. Let's also briefly look at the configuration that I have. So in the way we are collecting data, we have a team and a team B. Team A in our case represents George Mason always, so make sure whenever you're collecting data, if you type A pass, it's passed by a team member from George Mason University. Team B represents the other team. In the men's case, men's volleyball case, that would be Penn State. For women, it might change. So make sure you're aware of that, and you always keep that consistent. It's very important. Another thing that I wanted to point to is these different types, or the quality of the sets and how to measure them. I'll give you an example in the video, but just to briefly overview, if starting from number 3, if the setter receives a perfect pass such that he or she doesn't have to move much, and he or she, the setter, is able to set the ball for at least 3 hitters, then it's considered a set 3. A set 2 is considered a good pass by a setter, in which he or she is able to set the ball but only for 2 players. Finally, a set 1 is considered a shank, so it is a pass, and usually at least one attacker is able to get to the ball and follow up an attack, but it's not as good of a pass as 2, or not nearly as good as 3. So 3 is the best one, 2 is good, 1 is alright, and then 0 is it was a total shank and nobody could get to it. In my observation, what I have seen, there have been a lot of set 3 passes followed by some set 2 passes, and then there's a set 1 pass here and there, but I've never actually recorded any set 0 passes. Maybe I'm not including them, but from what I've seen so far, I've been able to work with number 3, number 2, or number 1. Now that we have our video up, let me show you how to set, or how to configure the settings. If you've downloaded the latest version, the setting might be on the left hand side, but in my case it's on the right. You see this 1.00x? This is the playing speed at which the video frames play on the computer, you can individually set this to any number you want. You can go as low as 0.25, or you can go as fast as 4.0, which I don't think you will. So my recommendation would be to begin, I would say start somewhere near between 0.26 to 0.35. This is a good starting point as you're learning. Once you pick up and once you start to get the hang of it, then you can increase the speed from here. Let's go back to our original video. So if you remember, I said download VLC media player, and that is what I'm running at this point. The reason why I said download VLC media player is it has some shortcuts that come in very handy. For example, let me play the video. So right now the video is being played at 0.35x, which is a lot slower frame rate than usual, and as it's displayed by players moving very slow from the screen. In order to do something called a 3-second skip, all you have to do, before we do skips, in order to play and pause, all you have to do is select the window and press space. As you can see, there was a pause sign that came up and the video is stopped. This will be very helpful when you didn't see what happened and you need to pause it and go back. It will be very handy rather than clicking a button again and again. You can just use your keyboard to press space and then go into the play or pause mode. Now going over to the skip mode, since the video is moving so slow and it'll take you ages if you watch it at this rate, a good shortcut is if you press shift and right arrow, the video tends to skip 3 seconds. So a shift and a right arrow means a video skips about 3 seconds. If you press alt and a right arrow, the video skips to about 10 seconds. And you can notice that here. Earlier it was 54 seconds, now it's 105, now it will be 1. So it has skipped a lot. Now I'm at 128. And then if you press Control plus right arrow, then you will be skipping by a minute. As you can see, earlier it was 230, now it's 330. So shift plus right arrow is 3 seconds. Alt plus right arrow is 10 seconds. And then Control plus right arrow is 1 minute. And it works the same. So let's say I came across a rally that I want to watch again. All I have to do is press space. So pause it, do shift, and then you know how right arrow makes the video skip forward, the left arrow takes you back 3 seconds. So if I want to go back 3 seconds, I would do shift and then left arrow, and that would take me from 451 to 448. From 448 as you can see, my machine is a little slow, but these are some of the shortcuts that come in very handy, and you can get these shortcuts online as well. It's if you type VLC media player shortcuts, it comes up, and as you can see here, it says shift plus left and right arrow is very short jumps, alt is a short jump for about 10 seconds, and then a control plus left and right arrow is a medium 1 minute jump. I never had to use a long jump just because you're only skipping a few frames back and forth. So these 3 shortcuts will come in very handy, at least they have for me. So I would recommend using VLC media player and using these shortcuts when you want to go back and forth rather than sliding on the little bar that comes up in in players. Going back to the video, let's see an example of how to collect the data. So let me play using the space bar. So make sure you're highlighted, you have the VLT media player highlighted, and then hold on a second. So I have my VLT player open in my Notepad++, and then I'm starting the video in slow mode in VLT++. Now this player, so team A, which is George Mason, is white, and team B, which is Penn State, is the other team. So right now George Mason has the serve, so I'll type A, and then I'll type R, which means A serve, which is George Mason's serve, and then let's see how the ball goes from there. Now the ball has gone up and it's received by a player on the other team. So all I have to do is type B and then do a pass, so that it's been received. So receive is a pass. Finally it was sent, it was passed on for a set, and since I skipped that part, I was unable to see it. All I have to do is put it in play mode again, and if I do shift and left arrow, I can go back 3 seconds. So this is the initial ball, and then as you can see, this is the setter, and it hasn't moved much. If the setter doesn't have to move much to set the ball, then it is a quality 3 set, which means he has options to set the ball to the hitter that's here, to the outside hitter that's here, and to the left hitter that's on the other side. And as you watch more videos, you'll come to notice that this is the pattern in volleyball. So let me go back and play the video. I'm just skipping ahead because I reset it. So as you can see, the setter doesn't move much. He sets the ball, and then an attacker attacks it, and then something happens here. So for me to see that again, all I have to do is go back 3 seconds using shift and then left arrow, and then press the play again, and then I can see it. And as you can see, the attacker attacks the ball. It's been blocked by one of the players from George Mason, and if you can see on the right hand side, if you're ever unsure of what happened, you can see that the umpire raised his right hand first, which means that team A or George Mason gets the point. So let's say we had a set 3 followed by a B attack, then it was blocked by team A, so it would be AL, which means A block, and finally we have a point for team A, which is denoted by A, and then we move on to the next line. Now this is very important that each rally be in its own line. If you continue typing, let's say with another rally in the same line, the program that I have will not function. So every time a rally ends, after every point, you must press enter, move on to a new line, and start with the serve until there is a point. Now since they're taking so long, we can skip the video to about 3 seconds or so and go until we see a serve.